Erik Horne here. We are back. Happy 2026, everybody. Andscape Roundtable with Clinton Yates, Jean-Jacques Taylor, Jason Reid, and Bill Rhoden. And to start off, we're going to talk about the biggest matchup of NFL Week 18. Ravens Steelers for a chance to go to the playoffs. Jason Reid, you're going to be there on Sunday night. Why did you reach out to me and want to be at this game so badly?
Well, in the history of the Ravens-Steelers rivalry, there's never been a winner-take-all game in the last week of the season to decide the AFC North title. So just for starters, the fact that in this great rivalry between these teams, you've never had this type of situation to close the season. One team is going to win the AFC North and go on to the playoffs, and the other team's going to go to Cancun. So my whole thing was like, okay, well, this is it. But also, I wanted to go because this is big for Lamar. He's coming off so many injuries this year, and now he had the back injury that he suffered in Week 16. I didn't know for certain if he was going to play, but now it looks like he will. Harbaugh the other day was like, hey, he's very optimistic. They don't say that type of stuff usually if a guy isn't going to play. He practiced fully the other day. So I wanted to be there because I think for the game in and of itself, that's interesting. But the bigger thing for me is like Lamar has not gotten it done in the playoffs. I mean, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's got two AP League MVPs. You can't tell the story of this era of the NFL without including Lamar Jackson. He's a big part of the story of the rise of the black quarterback in the NFL. And so I want to be there for that. And I want to see if Lamar can take a big step forward and get this team into the playoffs by winning the AFC North, which they've won the last two seasons, by the way, and they've won it four times with him as a starter. But can he then, if he can get them into the playoffs, can he then get to a Super Bowl and win it? There's no Patrick Mahomes this year, which has been an impediment for a lot of people. So I'm focused on the game, obviously, but more so to me, it's like, can this be the year when Lamar gets this team to the Super Bowl, and it has to start with him getting them into the playoffs?
We've got this, kind of manufactured matchup, so to speak, between Lamar Jackson and and Mike Tomlin here. And really it's, the Ravens as a whole and the Steelers, you got Aaron Rodgers on his last legs, you got Mike Tomlin, people talking about, is this his final time? Are we making too much out of this whole like Mike Tomlin thing? He's on his last leg situation because the Steelers don't fire coaches, y'all. Like this just doesn't happen. Like, are we making a little bit too much of the Mike Tomlin of this whole situation?
I
For
don't think
me,
so.
yeah,
Uh,
for me, no. Go ahead, JJC. My bad.
I was say I don't think so because the Steelers also win championships, and he hadn't been able to get that done. And then they've and they haven't they've been much like the Cowboys in one respect that they haven't been able to have any kind of playoff success whenever they've gotten there. And for those teams that have history of winning and history of success, and the Steelers have won Super Bowls under every other coach. And so getting there to them is not enough, or, being pretty good most of the time is not enough. It's impressive that he's never had a losing season. But at the same point, he hasn't had that many dynamic seasons where they were, top seed in the AFC.
I think for me, I'm just tired of seeing this guy coach the Steelers. I feel like there's better jobs. And for Tomlin, a guy who is respected around the league, there is something to be said for a change of scenery regarding, what he brings to a locker room. And, you heard guys like even Bill Cowher, who used to coach the Steelers, say, there came a point where my message wasn't being received. And no matter how good of a coach he might have been, there's an element of that here. And I don't know. I looked up the numbers as to how long. I didn't realize it had been 18 seasons that Harbaugh has in fact been there in Baltimore. That's just a plain a long time, in my opinion. In a modern league, for a guy to be at one particular location for 15 plus seasons, I think the rate of return diminishes greatly. And once you get past that 15th year, just because of the way the league works these days, I'd love to see Tomlin go to, say, a Giants team that needs some level of, authority and, whatever it takes. But I don't know. I do think that it makes sense as a storyline for sure, because if they lose this game, then it's just another season where you feel like, well, what could have been? But if they win it and then they end up getting bounced in the first round, which was what everybody thinks is going to happen, then, you're running the same play back every single time. And that's not that entertaining to me, just plainly as a fan.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Brian Flores is going to be the Giants head coach.
I was going to say, Bill.
But having said that, and also, so while Jay Reid is going to be at the Glamour game in Pittsburgh, I'm going to be in Cincinnati. I'm going to be in Cincinnati finalizing the encapsulating Shador's kind of last hurrah and has he earned and all that kind of stuff. But I'm pulling for Tomlin, and maybe that's kind of old school, and I keep thinking that he's earned the right, in a way, to call it quits, or to at least say I'm ready for another scenery. But when I think about that, I can't see him doing that. I can't see him, and I guess this gets to the question: when do you know it's time? If the organization is saying we'll leave it up to you, as long as you make the right decision, which is to gracefully leave. And Tom say, well, I don't want to leave. So there's a part of me, I guess, as I get older in my career, and you kind of identify with people who have been somewhere for a long time. And you got to kind of make the decision when to go. Like an athlete, it's pretty clear. At some point, you just can't go anymore.
Right.
And a coach, you just have about 3 or 4 bad seasons, you get fired. Well, he hasn't had 3 or 4 bad seasons. He's always been even. And I was even thinking with the whole Giants thing, and maybe you guys could weigh in. If your favorite team was going to hire a coach and you knew in advance, an angel came and said, listen, you can hire this guy, and for 18 years, you're never going to have a losing season. Would you take that? And he won 1 Super Bowl, right? Played in 2, won 1.
Yeah.
Is that enough? If somebody said in your favorite team, you will never have a losing season in 18 years, would you take that? So I think it's...
You know what?
Yeah.
That's good, because I forgot that they beat the Cardinals on James Harrison's miraculous return, even though I was...
It's only the greatest play in Super Bowl history.
I was going to say, and I was at that game and forgot. The highlight of that game was I met Spike Lee in the bathroom. But, that's a true story. The thing about Mike Tomlin I just thought about is, Pittsburgh got that setup where you have a say in the personnel, but you don't have the final say because they got the GM set up there. And he's now on that quarterback journey. And, people get mad when you talk about the quarterback journey. The quarterback journey can be like Green Bay, where it's, successional. It can be like New England, where you have 1 or 2 years and then you find your guy. Or it can be like Chicago Bears, where you can be searching for somebody since, Jim McMahon or Bobby Douglas to be your franchise guy. And so they're on that journey now, and he got to look at it and see, like, does it look like we're going to get a quarterback? Because you can't win if you don't have a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel, and I just want to say, I'm with you, Jay Reid. I'm pulling for Lamar. I mean, I would love to see Lamar rise to the ashes and somehow get to the Super Bowl, because I think when Lamar gets to the Super Bowl and wins it, I think this whole thing that we've been writing a lot about, that chapter will be over. That chapter of the whole history of the black quarterback thing will be over when Lamar, because of the way he looks, the way he talks, the way he is the epitome of what a lot of people do not like or are afraid of when it comes to this evolution of the black quarterback. So yeah, I'm pulling for him, man. And I was thinking that maybe this is a year when nobody expects Lamar Jackson to be in the Super Bowl. Nobody expects it at all. I was thinking this could be the year when it happens, because I don't know if anybody on the Zoom call expects Lamar Jackson to get to the Super Bowl, but I think this could be the year he does it. Not being the guy we've deified, but he just So I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for him.
So here's the question about Lamar Jackson. What, if anything, did you all think about the hit piece Mike Preston wrote on Lamar Jackson? In part because you don't write that without running it past the organization and then basically co-signing on much of it.
Right.
Meaning the organization can be like, what does that say about the organization in terms of where they are?
I personally think that drama is a little overblown, because there's no real reality in which not having Lamar Jackson makes you a better team than having Lamar Jackson. And that's something that I think we've lost track of, is that this idea that like the Ravens are doing things that are otherwise complementary that don't involve him on the primary is insane. Like,
See,
let's be real about that.
That's the point, though. When you're so good for so long, people take you for granted and be like, you know what? We could have somebody else here of a similar,
But JJT, my question would be for you. Like, I don't know Mike well, so I can't speak to this. But are you sure he ran it by the organization? I mean, he's written things in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking when I say running past the organization, I'm talking about only from an interview perspective. Like,
well,
you ain't writing that without.
I mean, I know he's written things in the past that have rankled people about, like, stuff that he's written. So I don't know if he. I mean, I can't speak to whether he ran it by them or not. You would think that if you want to maintain sources of organization, that you're not going to do that without running it.
That's what I said. When I said, I mean only in the reporting process, run it by.
Yeah.
Only as asking questions and coming up with some of the information you came up with.
Yeah. I mean, for me, go ahead. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jamie.
Well, I guess for me, the whole thing with Lamar is, I remember I was sitting next to Bill Rhoden, the esteemed Mr. Bill Rhoden, and Martenzie Johnson, one of our colleagues, in Baltimore when the Ravens had
was Arch there too? Was Arch there too? Sorry.
I don't think Arch was there. I don't think Arch was there. But this a few years ago, Baltimore had an historic defense. I mean, a defense that, based on efficiency metrics, was probably the greatest all time. Lamar had won his second MVP award, or was about to win his second MVP award, and the Kansas City Chiefs went in there with the worst pass catchers in the league in terms of drops. A year that they had to go on the road in the playoffs for the first time in the Mahomes era, and they beat that team. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, if Lamar can't get to a Super Bowl with this team and this defense, will he ever get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Now, the whole thing about Lamar is that, and I know you guys remember this, when he came up for a new contract, no teams in the league wanted to give up the 2 ones that it would take to get him, because they had tendered the offer. And there was a whole talk about conspiracy. And my whole thing about that was, Lamar had missed 8 games the previous 2 seasons combined, and he hadn't succeeded in the playoffs. There is no world in which the Ravens of this era were better if they did not have Lamar Jackson. That's just not debatable. But the question is, will Lamar ever get to that level where he's got to win a Super Bowl? I mean, that's what he's got. The MVPs, he's got the records, he's got the stats. He's proven that he can be a drop back passer and succeed. Last year, his efficiency numbers were off the charts. You could make an argument he should have won the MVP last year. But until he gets a team past the AFC Championship game and wins a Super Bowl, it's fair game. Anything anybody wants to say about him, because in the Super Bowl era, that's all that matters if you're an elite quarterback.
Okay. The only pushback I have to that is, take a guy like Josh Allen, for example. We do not hear the same types of criticisms about the inability.
And we should.
And that's where this discussion becomes thorny, is because, look, you can say that it's because it's the Ravens or because he's got more MVPs than Josh and arguably should have one more or 2, as you mentioned. But like at a certain point, you look at it and you say, if he wasn't wearing a shiesty, if he didn't talk like he was from Florida, would people be this critical of him when it comes down to what he means to any particular franchise? And that's where the whole discussion about Harbaugh, never mind Tomlin, becomes a whole other thing. I'm picking Lamar Jackson over Harbaugh every single time, if that's what it comes down to at the end of a season. I know that's kind of Eric, you talked about manufactured face-offs, but are we sure that the issue, again, is always Lamar? You can't blame him for Mark Andrews dropping a ball that's right in his lap in the end zone in Buffalo. You can't blame them for the secondary looking like almost cussed, looking terrible for a decent part of the season in big games. Lamar is doing what he does. And there's, it's kind of a rock and a hard place situation, which makes this game that much more fascinating, Jason. For sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Clinton. And I think that what you're talking about is what we've been talking about is the double standard. And I think we all know the answer to that. We all know the answer to that. I mean, there's still some people out there on radio who still think Lamar is a halfback playing quarterback. I mean, there's still that mentality. And we hear it. I mean, there are people who accept it. They don't like it, but they accept it. And I'm listening. So yes, that's why another reason I'm pulling for Lamar. By the way, just journalistically, you asked a question, Eric, about Preston, who I've known for a long time. I love Mike
That was
Preston.
JJT, but yeah,
Oh,
continue.
JJT, yeah, I love Mike Preston, and I mean he terrorizes them. You know, I had him talk to my class a number of times in college because he terrorizes them. He'll say shit like that, you know, and blow them out and come to the press box and the locker room the next day, you know, and say, yeah, I wrote it. So what? You know, and they pissed off and all that. To me, it's classic. That's what you're supposed to do. And I do agree at some level, he's not going to pull that out of thin air. You know, he says, let me just sit down and write this. I don't think he's pulling out of thin air. Now, did that come from Harbaugh? Probably not. But I think there's probably a sense from somewhere that somebody, we're getting tired of this, you know. So, but you know, but like I said, man, I think, Clinton, what you talked about with him and Josh Allen, we all hear it, man. We're all attuned to hearing that double standard stuff. That Josh, they could do the same thing. They could do the same exact thing, fail, but it's all on Lamar. And beyond that, it's because that style just does not work, you know. Right. So
it's interesting.
Well, I think the clock's running out on Josh Allen as far as excuses too, man. He's got plenty of weapons. He's got plenty of.
Man, he ain't got plenty of weapons, but
yeah.
But this is the year where he's the best quarterback in the AFC, and so he's supposed to be the guy who carries his team this year.
I don't know if he's the best quarterback in that division, brother.
Right.
Right. I don't know if he's the best quarterback in that division.
There it is.
Caveat is your boy has not done it in the postseason yet.
We'll see. We'll see.
Hey.
Ew, it's not. It's not Justin Fields. Tell you that much.
Hey, Quinn Ewers has something to say. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Quinn Ewers.
It's not Quinn Ewers. Guys, we've had a great year. I wanted to end this with a conversation. We've been talking about black quarterbacks all year. I wanted to talk about who we think are our black quarterbacks of 2025. You know, we've got some obvious choices. We've got some not so obvious choices. We got some controversial choices potentially. And I would like to see if we could start with JJT. JJT, I'm sorry, man. Who would you say has personified the black quarterback experience for you in 2025? Has been your favorite to talk about and watch?
Well, actually, it's a dude I haven't talked about, but I've just been watching him lately. And this is not because we got our tails kicked in whatever the Cotton Bowl last night. But I think quietly, CJ Stroud has got the Texans on an 8-game winning streak. Stop it. You stop it. He's got 18.
How did we know a Buckeye was going to enter the conversation?
You got to make lemonade, man.
I said this was not because we got our tails kicked last night. But I think he's done something, and he's figured out that I got a great defense, so I don't have to take chances. I can pick and choose when I want to exploit defenses, and there's a reason why he came back. He's only got the 3 games of more than 250 yards, so he's managing the game the way you got to manage it. He's playing complimentary football. He's making good decisions, and he gives the Texans a chance to really win this year.
That's fair.
Yeah. See, I probably thought I was going with Dak Prescott. That was too easy.
Who's next?
I
can go next.
Okay.
I can go next. To me, it's got to be Caleb Williams. I don't think that there is an example of a player who, with that much hype coming into a situation, with that much turnover and change, who is locked in, found a bond with a head coach and a coordinator in the way that Caleb has, and then proceeded to actually have the success to the point that not just the franchise, not just the team, but the damn city believes in him as well. Y'all go on and on about paint the nails and matchas and quarter zips and all that. This dude can play, Jack. And I'm not just saying that because he's the brother from DC that went to private school like myself. Let me read some of these numbers. Courtney Cronin had a great story about this, and some things I didn't necessarily realize because I'm not the super biggest stat nerd. If Caleb Williams throws for 270 yards, he'll be the first in franchise history to go for 4,000, which is just insane for the Bears. Also, He's averaging 233.1 passing yards a game, which is 12th in the NFL, and has multiple passing touchdowns in each of his 4 games, marking the longest streak of his career. Point being, improving as the season goes on is to me just as important a benchmark as anything having to do with the total number of statistics that you can put together at any given point. The Bears look like a good team. The Bears look like they're hard to beat, and nobody would be shocked at this point if they showed up in Santa Clara later this year. And that's kind of the thing for me. It's not just the stats. It's not just the on-field eyeball test. It's that he's got a city that had no reason to believe, because they botched this 100 times, actually behind him, and that pressure and dealing with all that. Not that I thought it was something he could not do. I think he just handled it so well, and it's really been impressive.
I think he's the perfect example. I think I mentioned it somewhere. Could have been with y'all, could have been somebody else. He reminds me of when North Turner went to Dallas and hooked up with Troy Aikman, and their philosophies were perfectly meshed, and that's when Aikman really took off. And it's always about, with quarterbacks, you always got to have that guy, with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes being the head coach, but you got to have somebody, the offense coordinator, head coach, that you ride with and can put you in the best position schematically and talent-wise to win. And Ben Johnson has done that, because he's done the damn thing.
Yeah, you mentioned it here.
Oh, thank you.
He went from 68 sacks taken in his rookie season to 23 this year.
That's pretty solid.
People tend to say that's a quarterback stat. Well, Caleb Williams is a better quarterback. He's improved, clearly. Who wants to go next?
Well, I'll go. So, of course, whenever you do this stuff, and whoever goes first is always he's probably going to get my guy. And that's exactly what happened. I was going to CJ Stroud, somebody I like. I must be selfish. Again, man,
Really?
I'm sure we're all about the story. And so I'm rooting for, because we're running out of first. If CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryan reach the Super Bowl, it'll be the first time you've had a black head coach and a black quarterback in the Super Bowl. So I'm like pulling for that, because we're kind of slowly running out of things. But but I like CJ Stroud a lot. My second person is Bryce Young, and I like Bryce Young just because I mentioned this on some of our other Zoom calls. You meet certain people, and we meet a lot of folks in person. Some guys we interview we like, other guys we kind of tolerate. I found Bryce just to be a really good and kind of humble. I don't like the word humble, but that kind of person that you just root for the guy, just because he's undersized, he got benched, he came back, and the guy has a lot of character. And nobody is expecting them to do what they're doing. I mean, they win what, Saturday or Sunday,
Yeah.
they win the division. So I like when you talk about who stands for what the black quarterback has endured. I think it's a guy like Stroud, because what has the black quarterback endured over years? Being marginalized, being overlooked, being questioned, being doubted. And that's what Bryce Young has been most of his life, being 5'8" or 5'9", or I'm sorry, he's not. What's the kid? He's not the Cleveland
Spencer
guy.
Rattler. And not Spencer Rattler. What's his name? Billy Gabriel.
Yeah, he's not Gabriel. So my guy, I like CJ Stroud a lot because of the potential historic thing, the Super Bowl. But I like Bryce Young just because of character and everything he's endured.
Jason?
Well, I spent one of the best summer, actually the best summer of my life, when I was an intern at the Dallas Morning News one summer, and I got the chance to really understand about the Cowboys and the culture in Texas and Dallas area, the metroplexes, as JJT knows that they call it, and just how much people love that team there. And I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. I know you guys thought JJT was, but I'm going to go with Dak Prescott for many reasons. Biggest reason, and first, starting off, was that the Cowboys traded a generational edge rusher before the season kicked off. And that's the type of thing that can, crush a locker room, crush a team. And Dak went out and had, I mean, really, if the Cowboys had 12 victories right now, you'd be talking about Dak Prescott maybe leading the MVP race above Matthew Stafford, above Josh Allen, above Drake May. because in addition to overcoming losing a generational edge rusher, if the Cowboys had finished with that type of season, also had a player commit suicide during the season. And Dak showed great leadership during that too. And then when you see what he's actually done on the field, I mean, look, everybody who's been mentioned here, all great candidates, all, not that we're giving an award, but all people who definitely should get the recognition that we've all mentioned. But I don't think we can forget about Dak Prescott, because that guy has had an incredible season on the field and an incredible season off the field.
Let me give you one thing about Dak. I was looking this up because I got curious the other day. The Cowboys have allowed 477 points, the most in the NFL. 7 other teams have allowed more than 400 points. Their win totals are 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, and 3. And the Cowboys are sitting at 7. And that's because they've been dynamic on offense.
And could finish at 500.
Yeah.
I mean, if they win this last game.
It's a wasted year by the front office in Dallas.
Yeah.
Quality stat.
Well, I remember those wasted years with Drew Brees where they went 7-9 3 straight years, and they had one of the worst defenses in NFL history.
They went 7-9 the year they had the worst defense. Yeah.
That is near and dear to my heart, unfortunately. I'm going to go with one guy that I know everybody's been waiting for us to talk about. Jalen Hurts. Now look, Jalen Hurts gets a lot of crap, man.
Right.
All throughout the season, everybody's been talking about the Giants offense.
I'll be one of those people giving him crap, just to be clear.
Listen, look, I hold the man accountable too. He's got to be a better quarterback, but he is the reigning Super Bowl champion. He's come off an outstanding performance in the Super Bowl. He is basically I can't count this towards 2025, but he's a fumble away from winning 2 Super Bowls.
Right, absolutely.
I think when the time comes, when these playoffs start, it's going to be interesting to see how he rises to the occasion. We've seen that the Rams are vulnerable. That if the game's in it today, that will be their first round matchup. The Rams have kind of, been vulnerable these past couple of weeks going into the playoffs. I want to see Jalen Hurts on the biggest stage, because I think when he's on the biggest stage, he tends to come through. He's had some playoff success. This has not been his best regular season, but for some reason, going back to the 2025 Super Bowl that we saw, I believe in him in the playoffs. And I think that this season is going to be one of the more wide open playoffs we've seen in a long time.
Bill, to answer your question, my issue with him is entirely personality based. It has nothing to do with his ability to lead or his skills on the football field. I talk like I'm in a fortune cookie all the time thing, and like all of the sort of like, I don't know, there's just something about it that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not that I think he's a bad person. It just comes across as a little extra too media trained for my particular liking. And you feel like, I think that in the context of what we're talking about in terms of what a black quarterback is and this, that, and the third, he's got the leading man looks. He's got the, all women crew that is very progressive and has done a lot of things on a very positive note. But there's something to be desired from a personality standpoint that I feel like I would like more of personally. But that's literally the only reason I've ever had an issue with it.
Right. But that's I think it's intriguing you say that, because again, we could all go to our all interview or all lack of interview thing. And some of us, we react differently. Like I kind of had the same thing to Shador.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, really, brother? I've had people in my class like that, who come think that why am I even in this class? I'm teaching you, but professionally, we got to deal with it, right? So I'm with you. We all have our thing, but I'm also with Erik in that the brother delivers,
Yeah.
He delivers. And I think sometimes, and when you were saying that about personality, isn't that something we have with some of our white brothers that, sometimes a brother will be judged differently. Well, I just don't like the way he carries himself. He's a little too this, a little too that, instead of just going with the numbers. But I hear you, man. If we're all honest, sometimes you sit down and you're like, really? I got to deal with this,
No, I don't think he's uppity. I just think he's kind of boring. That's all. And it seems like there's a more interesting person there that, if you think about the level of success that he's had, really could rocket to a level of superstardom in America. I mean, this is a guy that I could see being in movies in 10 years or whatever after he's out of the NFL. You know what I mean? But we don't get any of that because he's so locked in, which is arguably why he's good. So,
But the thing I too like and his style, without going too far over to the political thing, so he didn't go to the White House.
yeah.
He doesn't say anything, no fanfare, whatever. I just don't go, you know? And I really respected it without even getting into why, whatever. I think that's the kind of guy he is. You know what? I just ain't gonna go.
That was a class move.
Yeah. And I think the people in the White House said, you know what? We ain't gonna F with you either. Cool. We get it. So, big props to him.
All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it up. Sorry, Shedeur Sanders, maybe in 2026, man. You didn't make the list this time. We talked about you all season. We made the pilgrimage, and you got nothing from us, man. You got absolutely nothing from us in the end. But thanks for joining us on the roundtable once again. We will see y'all next week once these playoffs get started, or once these playoffs are set, and then we can talk a little bit about that. Thanks again.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.